The whole world has seen this car. The whole world knows about this car. $58,900, 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, mid-engine supercar layout out of a GM product.
That's right. The first ever mid-engine Corvette is here. We had the opportunity in some previous videos to look at some pre-production models, and today we get to get our grubby hands on it.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, we're gonna touch this thing. We're gonna put it up on a lift, look underneath it. We're gonna get in and drive it in it. Maybe fart. I don't know. We're gonna check this thing out with you guys. Stick around.
Let's see. Be sure to go check out Midwest Ride on YouTube right now to check out his Corvette C8. And this is the first ever Corvette C8 to have the engine replaced.
True story. There's also a Zeus bronze in the garage to look at if you want to see some exhaust comparisons, some different models or different colors on the C8. Go check out Midwest Ride. We appreciate him letting us check out the car today.
Look at it.
It's back here.
It sure is.
We're in the back of the car and there is a motor and it says Corvette on it.
Yeah, there's a motor and there's a trunk.
There's a trunk that can fit golf clubs. It can also fit that Targera top. But this is the meat and potatoes right here. So they didn't do anything crazy like put a twin turbo V6. The fact that they moved the engine to the back of the car is an undertaking in itself. There's so much R&D that went into this that started back in the era of the C6. They took some time on, took some time off, but ultimately that's when the planning of this began. We still have a 6.2 liter V8 back here, familiar to GM. It's nothing crazy new other than the fact that it's in the back. But what is interesting in the C8, in the C7 and the research and development that was done there, they obviously had to put that dry sump system in to keep the engine lubricated under aggressive driving. There's no difference in the C8 other than this car can corner more, pull more G's, accelerate faster. So what they had to do here right from the get-go is in addition to that dry sump, they added 2 scavenge pumps. When they were R&D'ing the C7, they lost countless motors trying to figure out how to get that system to work because they already had that technology in place, knowing they needed to improve on it. They only had 1 engine failure making the C8. That's pretty darn impressive.
You want to know what's even crazier?
Tell me.
The second engine failure ever on a Corvette C8 was on this exact car that we were reviewing.
1,800 miles, 1,900 miles, this engine did fail. It blew a rod or some crap like that.
Yeah.
The thinking was it was more or less an installation, an assembly issue, or there was some debris. It was an internal engine
Don't
failure.
tell them anymore. They got to go subscribe to Midwest Ride to find out.
Do it. Fun opportunity having the C8 up on the lift, checking out the underside. Guys, it's there's really not much to look at because it's just a big bolt and panel party. But there are a few things worth noting while we're down here. Let's take a peek at those. So guys, we're just holding our hands up in the under panels here, looking around. There's a lot of discussion whether when it comes time to service the front accessories, the alternator, the air conditioning compressor, can you do that with the engine in the car, or is it going to have to be fully dropped out? What I can tell you from being someone who just likes looking at stuff, tinkering, kind of a do-it-yourselfer, is I think I could handle a lot of the stuff with the room that's in front of the motor as well as the back firewall, essentially. I think there is room in there to get in there with the belts, with some tools. It looks pretty darn accessible to me. So starting in 1981, the rear shocks or the rear springs in every Corvette since then has been a composite. This is the first time since 1981 they've gone back to a steel spring. A lot of that has to do with just limitations on placement with the different interactions and the way those springs, steel versus composite, work. But what's kind of interesting is the spring doesn't even start until up above the tire in the rear here. It's pretty cool. We took that engine in the front, obviously, 500 pounds of mass. We moved it back 7.5 feet. We took 300 pounds of transmission, moved that back 3.5 feet from the C7, but we still have to have some weight up here. Now 60% of that weight load is over those rear wheels, which we know from like Nissan GTRs that weight isn't frowned upon when it comes to performance and acceleration. Good thrust back in the seat, man. It really puts you back. Holy crap. Some of those weight items we have on every Stingray model, regardless if it's got the Z51 or not, is 2 completely full-size radiators on each side. Each of these inlets are massive radiators that are obviously full of fluid. When we look behind that radiator, let's take a peek at what we find. So behind that radiator, it's wide open so that air can continue to flow through. You can see that we have this little opening down here to let some more air hit these brakes, keep them cool, as well as just airflow through this entire underside. It's pretty cool, the technology. Everything is purposeful. There's not just something on here because it would be fun to put it on. You can tell that everything is weight saving and function, and the engineering is just mind-blowing. So here's a look at the inside of the front brake. Again, we're not looking at the Z51 package. Let's step out here just for a second without hitting my head both times, but I will. We don't have the slotted and drilled rotors anymore. So when we initially had an interview, or it was a part of an interview with Ed Paddock, one of the head engineers, the question was asked of him and he didn't necessarily give a good answer. Since then, I've done some additional research in a recent article that just came out within the past month or two here. They talk about it's an EPA thing. So obviously the environment gets involved, and that brake dust is like a 20% emissions pollution agent that is released in the atmosphere. So with those slotted and drilled rotors, they can't use the same compound on their brake pads because of the abrasiveness against that. So that is why we are not going to see any slotted or drilled rotors on the C8. I would take on maintenance, repair, modifications on this car and not feel intimidated about it. I'm just a normal do-it-yourselfer type of dude. Oil filter, drain plug for the rear diff, I'm assuming, just easily accessible, obviously, so general maintenance won't be an issue either.
So the Corvette C8 sits awfully low, and how does it do that? It also has a super low center of gravity while sitting this low. So the dry sump oil pan was actually shrunk, so it's just kind of got a lot shorter, and that way they could actually move the engine down an inch lower, which gives it a lower center of gravity, which allows it to sit lower like so. The Corvette C7 was 7 inches shorter than this Corvette. The reason for that being is trunk space also allows for a very nice roomy cabin. We are 2 inches wider as well, so we can fit 305s on the back of a Stingray. You guys believe that? We are rocking 305s on the back of the Stingray. So the current Corvette Z06 has about 285s on it. Does that mean that the new Z06 and new ZR1 are going to be the first Corvette to have 405s in the back? The second production car ever to have 405s behind the Bugatti Veyron? A lot of people don't know this, including the owner. This is how you open the frunk. There's a little button right here, pops right on open, and voila. As you can see, this is where the power steering fluid reservoir is, the windshield washer fluid reservoir is, and the battery sits right under this plastic cowl right here. As you can kind of see right there, that is for weight.
So the passenger mirror, for visibility reasons, is a little longer. It stands out a little further than the driver mirror. And when you're standing in front of the car, you can notice that. What else I really love are the jagged, bold lines in this car. and that also carries through right through the windshield onto the top of the dashboard. These cool little jagged lines are a pretty neat design cue. What that is it's mounted to some fancy magnesium, lightweight aluminum beam that goes across the front of the car. And it mimics the one that goes over the back of the car, just ultra lightweight, high strength structure. Everything is purposeful in the C8.
The car that I am currently standing in front of is a LT2 with the GT2 Sport bucket seats with a $72,000 sticker. All right, let's talk cameras super quick. This car doesn't have the advanced camera package, so we don't have our cameras on the mirrors, but we have the cameras right up front here. We have one here, we have one here, and we have one right up there. The one up there is for the PDR, which I will show you when we get into the interior. But the two up front are awesome, especially when pulling into places. They'll turn on so you can see and view the things around you. The camera in the back here is for the rear view camera, and the camera down here is for the backup camera. Gotta love soft close.
We can't show you it specifically, but just to further tell you the engineering and thought that went into this car, the bumper that's behind the plastic here, the actual structure that's for safety, is a carbon composite. So there is no stone left unturned in the C8's design. Everything is thought out in the C8. There's a lot of talk about how the car does a brief amount of understeer. That is so when the car is pushed to its limits, it's perfection. Right, so every fitting, every bushing, the sidewall of the tires, all of that was thought about, all of that was tested. There was research and development done on every single component. The flexibility, the movement, the give, that every bushing, every suspension component, it's quite remarkable the R&D that went into this car. We have 60% of the weight over the rear tires. We do need to still put weight up front, so we have the two radiators that are filled to capacity up front. This is not the Z51 package. When it is the Z51 package, we will see in the US on the passenger side a third radiator in here. I say in the US because the first time ever the Corvette is being manufactured and built in such a way that it can be a right-hand drive model. Now, we learned early on in one of the interviews we were part of with another engineer that there was room for expansion on the radiators, such as one on the other side in that other air inlet. Z06 possibly? What do you think?
I should also mention the car is 70 pounds heavier than the old Stingray, just simply because everything has to be bigger in America. So the rear window tint actually turns into a bunch of tiny Corvette logos. Isn't that cool?
There was a lot of talk and discussion if they should make a rear engine and a front engine Corvette and offer the two different options. They knew that once this car was underway and they knew the capabilities that they couldn't even make the front engine as an option. What is funny is the engineers, they knew this was the only option to improve the previous C7 Corvette. They could not make a better car. It had reached its limits in the steering and the performance. They could not get anything more out of that car. That's why the C8 came into play. I've read it in a handful of articles. We heard it out of one of the chief engineers' mouths talking about how they benchmark different aspects of the car. They used a 458 Ferrari, believe it or not, that they built and disassembled for that rear window. They couldn't figure out in their prototype cars why the engine was so noisy. Why were they hearing the air conditioning? Why were they hearing the drive belts? They did not like that. So what they found out when they were disassembling the 458 is the thickness of this glass is substantial. To put it into perspective, this glass is only an 1/8 inch thick. This is almost 3/8 of an inch thick. So a full 1/4 of an inch thicker to keep that sound out while still being able to hear the roar of that 6.2.
Let's just take a quick second to view how much trunk space there actually is. There's a lot of trunk space in the C8. You'd be very impressed. As you can see here, this is the little fitting for the Tagara top to go and snap right in there. And of course, like all the videos say, this does hold golf clubs.
What I can tell you is the 2 different occasions I've seen this car, I get super excited about it every time. And then I don't see one in person for a while. But when I do, I get absolutely ecstatic and turn into a little kid. I want one of these cars again, and I say that every time I see it. what I noticed on the drive over here, looking at this thing in my rear view mirror, was how absolutely menacing it looks. Especially in black with the cabin blacked out and just these daytime running lights turned on. It looks so mean looking at it. The other thing I really thought was cool, which I guess I didn't realize, maybe I knew, but I forgot if I did, is the sequential turn signals. So I enjoyed this at a stoplight, watching these things. Check it out.
So we're going to start off the interior with the Corvette key. We have the Corvette logo, a Corvette logo, and a bunch of buttons. Lock, unlock, auto start, frunk, trunk, alarm, and this also changes my mode and Z mode for driver 1 and driver 2. Let's get into it. All right, let's start off in weather mode. We're just going to go ahead and go through the center stack here and check out what changes when we go through our mode. So we are currently in weather mode. This is my mode. Then we are going to go into tour, followed by sport when things get serious. Then we're going to go into track, when I like this one the most. This also completely changes our heads-up display. Check it out. This would be sport, followed by track. Sitting in the Corvette C8, I absolutely love the square steering wheel. Gives me awesome visibility while giving me awesome legroom, and I really liked driving it around. It has a great feeling all around. It's a really nice steering wheel. As for everything else, I think it is fantastically laid out. Everything works smoothly, although GM is still a little bit behind with their super snappiness. As you can see, as we were going through those displays, there's a bit of a lag, but that is completely eliminated on the center stack. As you can see, there's no lag whatsoever out of that center display. Got the speaker back here with the Corvette logo on it with the wireless charger right under it. Something that's super cool about that speaker is that this is actually a Bose system, the most high performance Bose system ever put in any vehicle.
The passenger seat is very comfortable, however. It's definitely, that is not a fault. Right down here, you're lacking a full support for your arm. But what is neat about this is the seats can recline pretty much 9% more than they used to. So you can get a 18% incline out of the seats. When we were on the outside of the car, we were talking about the design cues, and you can see just the little river channel of the design. It's like when you're in the passenger seat, you're over in your own little island.
How we change gear in the C8. You're going to pull up for reverse, tap for neutral, pull up for drive, tap for manual, and then tap for park. Pretty cool system that they have set up. This is how you go through your modes. So you have a little armrest here, and just under it there's a dial that you spin back and forth. That's how I was cycling through those modes. Right above that we have a couple of buttons that we can tap. We have traction control and to immediately enter our front camera. That way we can see if there's anything that we're approaching. We can just tap that button and it is right at the tip of our fingers. This vehicle does not have the front end lift, but if it did, that button would be right there. The front end lift can save up to 1,000 different spots, and as soon as you approach that area, it'll lift the car up. That way you don't have to worry about hitting anything. So we just have our standard rear view camera here, our Dewey. We can actually turn this on, and it's super cool. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can turn up the brightness. There's a lot of cool things you can do with the rear view camera. This feature is super helpful when trying to look through some two dirty sets of windows in the back. Super cool how visible that engine is right behind your head. PDR is the performance data recorder. You just go ahead and access it and use it by doing this right here. Open the glove box like so. There's an SD card slot right there. You slap an SD card in there, and then you can come back to your display here and you can record as you go around a track, or even use it as a dash cam. You can go ahead and see it just like this. We would do none. So this is what it would look like if we were using it as a dash cam. Just shows you in the front of the vehicle. Or if we're going around a track, for example, it would show this while recording. Your RPMs, the speed, how fast you're going, the G-forces, everything like that. That way you can perfect those apexes. These are the GT2 bucket seats, and they are awesome. I overall am a very, very large fan of the C8 interior. It's really nice, although this is a lower trim than I have seen. And yeah, it does get a little bit cheap in here. These aren't leather materials. It's just a fake looking plastic. So yeah, they're cheap materials, but it still is an overall nice design. Once you get to those dipped interiors though, my goodness, is it beautiful.
Very quick car. That is very impressive. I seriously cannot imagine what the Z06 is going to be like. If they can put out a car that is this quick in this price range, I don't know. Mind is blown at the moment. I don't feel like I'm getting close to this car's capabilities taking that turn right there. Yeah, that's good. Yep.
Feels all right.
Good noises. Yep, feels good. It's obviously scooting. Very well planted, obviously. Oh man, that is fun. I like that. Wow, that transmission's fantastic.
It's pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah, that's very quick. Yeah, instantaneous shifts. I like that a lot. I really dig the square steering wheel as well. It gives you an awesome view of the gauge cluster while also giving you tons of legroom. It doesn't bother me at all. I like the fact in the C8 that when I just went around this turn right here, I was holding on and I was feeling it throughout my entire body. I love the fact how it engages you with that. Downshifts are just as instantaneous as upshifts. Listen here. It's pretty impressive. And yeah, what I read is they had all the supercars. In the first interview we were a part of, they said that they had a McLaren, they bought a 458, they took them apart piece by piece and just laid them out, all the parts over the table.
Wow.
For the transmission, they were diving into the PDK from the Porsche, from the 911. So they used like the best parts from all the supercars and exotic cars out there, and they took the ideas and dove into where that specific car excelled. So
wow.
Pretty exciting that they used the PDK as a benchmark for this, because that's a phenomenal transmission. All right, here we go. That's very, very impressive. This would be an awesome car around the track. The mirror visibility is super cool. So it's like the body line goes straight up into the sky. I've never seen anything like that on a car.
Yeah,
it's kind of neat.
That I noticed when I first got the vehicle is it's kind of a different feel where it goes up kind of towards your head almost.
Yeah, it makes you just want to look up at the clouds, not at the other cars behind you. I like the haunches above the front wheels there that you see. Other than that, you don't really see anything.
Oh yeah, no, you can't. I mean, it feels like you're right at the front of the vehicle.
Yeah, that's awesome. Attention-wise, do you feel like you get a lot of it?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah, even on the way here, I was telling you that I was at a gas station and I got stuck there for 20-30 minutes talking about the car, talking about other people's cars, and it's something that I do enjoy. It's very cool that just something like this vehicle, or a vehicle for that matter, can kind of draw people together, start conversation, that sort of thing.
Do most people know it's a Corvette?
I would say yeah. Some people, there's obviously people that don't know what it is. They ask, what kind of vehicle it is, but the majority of the people, they come up and they're like, oh, is this a new Corvette? And I'm like, yeah, it is. But it's kind of a toss-up, I'd say.
Okay, cool. One thing I will say though, right after this. Wow, that is a quick car. There is no doubt about it, that is a quick car. I will say, I do wish that there was a little bit more, I don't know, exhaust sound maybe. I feel like I can hear the pistons doing every single rotation. And I think I would like to hear a little more exhaust sound than that. I have a feeling the Z06 is going to change that. Or have you driven the Z51 performance package? Does that change that?
I will say when you are, getting down on it, giving it gas.
Yeah.
It definitely is louder. It's a lot louder than this is. Okay. But I will say, yeah, with the Z51, I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll take care of a lot of that exhaust noise that it might be missing.
Because your dad has one at the Z51, right?
Yep, he does. Yep.
Have you, and you haven't gotten to experience that one yet?
No, I actually have. When we were driving it back from Ohio, that was when we were at 70, 80 miles an hour, and we'd kick it down, give it gas, and it actually, it roars a little bit more than this does, I would say.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I will say this, even from the driver's seat, I'm very impressed about the suspension. I feel like whenever I took a tight turn, or the very short tight turns that I took, it feels like it all of a sudden stiffens up very quickly. Where just on this nice road that we're on right now, just going straight, it's a little bit bumpy, and it just soaks up the bumps like a Mercedes or a luxury car like so. It's a really awesome suspension. They did a good job with that.
This thing's a riot though. It really, it's a smile maker. And then looking in the rear views or the side mirrors, and you just see this massive haunch, like higher than your shoulder line.
I truly think the 2020 Corvette is the best thing to happen since the Nissan GT-R hit the market. The price for the performance with the looks, you really cannot beat it.
It's absolutely shaking up the auto industry. Everyone knows that, but that's a good comparison. The last time something was just like, holy crap, this is amazing, was probably back in 2009.
Yeah, this is what everybody thought the Acura NSX was going to be.
Right, and that the whole hybrid was kind of a flop. This is like American muscle meets supercar, and they nailed it.
They absolutely nailed it.
So having the ability to see one in 5 different colors now, and being able to drive one for the first time, I want to thank Midwest Ride again for giving us the opportunity to experience that. Guys, I'm still smiling inside from the experience. It was truly remarkable.
It was a very awesome car to drive. I'm very thankful to Midwest Ride for allowing me to drive it. I was beyond impressed. It rides like a luxury car. Then when you want to drive it fast, it drives like a super sports car. It's very impressive what Chevy managed to throw together here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's video on performance on wheels. Really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys are curious on the reliability of the Corvette C8, be sure to check out our other video where we just have a chat with Midwest Ride, checking out what exactly happened when its engine blew up, how I've already been around a Corvette C8 that's been through 2 transmissions, if this is a car that you should cancel your order on, or if it's just one that maybe has a couple of small flaws in the first go around. Let's find out. You guys are gonna have to subscribe and watch that video. Comment down below what you think of the C8. We'll see you in the future.